Question 1. In what ways does your media product use, develop, or challenge forms and conventions of real media products? The film.
Conventions define many things, including what a short film is, the genre, narrative, and visual elements. The main convention we used was the length of our short film. Short films are mainly shown at film festivals and therefore last between 5 and 15 minutes.
This meant we had to be conscious of the time we used, including titles, transitions, and credits, and we had to refine ideas to make it achievable and to work within the time frame, while simultaneously still illustrating a narrative. Another convention we used was from our main inspiration, the work of director Wes Anderson. We mainly focused on his use of visual storytelling through set and costume design, which creates a bright and vivid presence in his films, as seen in both features such as the Grand Budapest Hotel and Castello Cavalcanti, while the narrative itself deals with much more complex and mature themes. For example, the Grand Budapest Hotel deals with issues such as death, inheritance, relationships, and grief. Our own narrative is based on our main character's struggles with self-esteem, depression, and anxiety. Following Anderson's attention to colour and palette, we showcase this throughout, using the colour yellow as our main tone in the film, which develops in intensity throughout, culminating at the end when we see his happiness being related to the colour.
Another convention that we focused on from Wes Anderson's work was the framing of shots. The main focus within shots in the Grand Budapest Hotel, Castello Cavalcanti, and the Darjeeling Limited is symmetry, and techniques like the rule of thirds and depth of field. Shots often pinpoint the main point of focus as the centre throughout the central framing of an object or person, which gave us the idea of placing everything centre, with props and costume mirroring Anderson's aesthetic symmetry to underline any focus points within our narrative to help tell the story. This became very important for when the wellies are first introduced, as they grow for a motif for the protagonist's happiness.
We developed the convention of characters in our short film. Characters within short films are often limited and have little backstory, as you only have a few minutes to illustrate a narrative. Following this, we had one protagonist, but we also added some supporting characters to complement the narrative to help to progress the story. The decision was influenced by the short Elevator, in which multiple supporting characters are used to convey comedy and drive the narrative.
We also developed the conventional situation, which is usually an everyday scenario with a twist. We kept the story closely linked to the contemporary ideas of being unhappy and kept it relatively naturalistic. However, we exaggerated the idea of struggling to find happiness and gave a quirky and improbable solution to put an original spin on the short.
We challenged typical short film conventions by having a rounded story arc, as a lot of shorts leave the story unfinished or open at the end. Our story, rounding off into a new equilibrium, is one of the ways we challenged conventions.
We also challenged conventions by having only one line of dialogue within our film to tell the story visually. As Wes Anderson was our main inspiration, watching his own short films gave us ideas of using his style to tell the story through imagery. Even though characters within his shorts talk, we wanted to challenge the convention to create a narrative that relies on visuals instead of words.
Posters. With regards to our posters, they're filled with conventions. One we used was the use of title, and we made it yellow to complement the brand and suggest about the narrative.
Another convention we used was institutional information at the bottom of the poster to make our poster look professional. This gives the audience information like the studios that produce the film and is a key part of marketing.
A convention I developed within my poster was the actor's name. I featured the actor's name on our poster, however I tried to integrate the actor's name into the poster rather than have it separate and apart from the rest of it. This makes it look carefully considered and more professional.
A convention I developed was the image of the central character. We placed a border around him to link him to the theme of happiness, which is supported by him smiling. The framing of the laurels also develops this theme as the success of the film surrounds the boy smiling.
I challenge conventions by creating an ambiguity regarding genre on my poster. It's not completely obvious which genre it fits into. It suggests ideas behind narrative and plot, but I felt the mystery would entice audience members.
I challenge conventions with my poster by juxtaposing the detailed mise-en-scène within the short by using a blank background to draw attention to the protagonist's smile, which is complemented by the yellow outline.
Magazine. My magazine is filled with conventions of popular film magazines. One obvious convention was the formatting of my magazine. I structured my magazine into columns, and as this was an easily recognisable convention and it was well established in magazines.
My magazine uses several typical conventions of popular magazines, such as the formatting, which is 2 to 3 columns, use of images, and the way the article itself is written. All of these conventions are easily identifiable within other magazines such as Sight and Sound and Empire.
My magazine used conventions from multiple case studies like Sight and Sound, Empire, and Total Film. I used multiple features from each magazine. One I developed was the synopsis and plot of the film. Sight and Sound give a long explanation of the film's plot. However, I didn't want to give away too much regarding the film as it is a short film. Therefore, I opted for a short, brief summary like Empire used, so I combined different magazine features to create a new product based on other ones.
One way I developed conventions was through the use of my colourful yellow theme. Magazines like Sight and Sound use one colour associated with the film to create a themed article. I developed this convention by using the images of our short film, which also have yellow tones, and creating yellow borders to create an obvious aesthetic for my magazine.
A convention I challenged was the use of direct quotes from the film. As our film has little dialogue, I decided to avoid film quotations and use alternative methods to convey meaning of our film, like image and colour.
I challenged conventions by writing the article in a way that combines the writing style of several magazines. Although the format sticks to the convention of one magazine, I have written the article to be both accessible like Empire and interesting for a niche film audience like Little White Lies.
How effective is the combination of your main product and ancillary tasks?
The combination of our main product and ancillary tasks was effective as we were able to create a specific theme and tone for our film and magazine reviews and posters. We put specific focus on the colour yellow to underline the theme of finding happiness that is apparent in our narrative. In the film, we focused on colour correction to underline the tones of yellow linking to the theme, and also changed the exposure and brightness to add vibrance to the environment, highlighting the protagonist's unhappiness in the bright world around him.
We also incorporated a pair of wellies as a motif or symbol of happiness, which we reciprocated in our magazine reviews and posters. For our posters especially, we gave the specific focus on colour to underline the theme. However, this could have been more effective if we picked a universal symbol for happiness rather than a pair of wellies, as a mass audience who haven't been exposed to the short may not understand.
For our magazine reviews, we also used the colour yellow to link back to our theme through using borders and text boxes with colour to cement the theme of the protagonist's happiness. This helped us create an overall tone for our magazine that links to the feelings of the film and our posters. We use these pictures from our short film to further link the review to the film.
A lot of successful film magazines, such as Little White Lies and Empire, also do this to create original concepts to add to the verisimilitude of their short films through giving the short a personality on a double-page spread. We also used our actor as another face of our film as we researched Dyer's star theory, which focuses on the use of actors for publicity, and our actor has previously appeared on television shows such as Tracy Beaker Returns.
Potentially, the diversity of focal points within our film could present an issue for making the brand especially recognisable, as within this regard less is more. However, it is evident that the film, poster and magazine review are all related as they all share similar features and themes.
What have you learnt from audience feedback?
We pitched our film as an idea in the early stages and received some initial feedback in terms of narrative. The narrative wasn't clear and needed a clear disruption, and so we used Todorov's narrative theory to give a clear structure in relation to our short, with the main problem, disruption, being that the protagonist is unable to find happiness despite efforts to make him smile.
We created an assembly edit of our short and showed it to both classmates and a range of outside audiences. For example, we posted it on a short film forum called Filmmaker Forum and received feedback online. The feedback included deleting shots that had no significance to the narrative, were visually unsatisfactory and didn't fit within the sequence, also resequencing some shots again to adjust the narrative.
Also following peer feedback, we did reshoots to replace blurry or out of focus shots, making our film more professional. After this, to help aid the narrative, we created a score of music to help give each theme a sound. For example, the wellies have their own motif that gets repeated to embed the idea of happiness.
We also received feedback on each of our blogs. This was mainly to extend the use of creative media to show information, and so we created podcasts and videos to widen our use of digital technology and display a more creative use of media.
For each of our posters and magazine reviews, we also received feedback from classmates to underline improvements that we could make to help link the poster and review to our short, and also follow typical conventions of existing examples.
We each analysed our poster and magazine drafts as we went along to help identify improvements based on our reflection and on our feedback. How did you use technologies in the construction and research, planning and evaluation stages?
We used a wide range of digital technologies within each stage of making our short film and ancillary tasks. To begin researching short films, we used the internet and platforms like YouTube and websites such as Sundance to begin watching short films. We analysed conventions and themes and brainstormed how we could reciprocate what we learned, and constructed a preliminary task to experiment with some basic techniques to practice before applying this to a final product. The use of the internet affected our creative outcomes, as we were able to access a wide range of websites and social media to understand how short films are both constructed and then received by the digital world as a whole.
We also kept an online blog using WordPress to post each stage of our short film. For this, we presented our research through a wide range of media such as videos, podcasts, screen recordings of editing skills developed through tutorials, sound recordings of music created via GarageBand or Live Instruments, and text-based posts using graphic websites like Canva. This impacted our creative outcomes as the wide combination of digital technologies helped us become more confident using editing software like Final Cut and Premiere as we used them to create the individual posts, which allowed for a more adventurous use of editing like colour correction and crossfades in the final product. Also, the research helped us learn about our specific target audience and how we should cater to their requirements, like distributing our film digitally and including codes and conventions that they would understand to make for a more enjoyable film experience.
Our film blog also helped us develop a digital theme through our research, as we gave specific focus to colours and symbols within our short film through our research to help visually link each video or post to the creative outcome. For editing, we explored using both Premiere and Final Cut to edit our film. We found that Premiere had many useful tools for sequencing shots and layering sound, but through researching tutorials of Final Cut on YouTube, we found more tools for colour correction and colour grading, something we knew we needed to focus on to underline our nod to Wes Anderson and our visual storytelling conventions.
For the evaluation stages of our film, we made a rough edit and watched it back, making notations of things to change and improve. We then looked further into researching how the editing software Final Cut, via YouTube tutorials and internet forums, could help us to further advance our film. We also screened our film on a large screen with larger speakers to test for reverb and any graphic loss due to enlarged scale to ensure the product maintained a professional cinematic standard.